So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this Friday edition. As usual, this is your usual Friday hangout with Mazi Ezoke. Now, I have a special guest in the house today. I have Dr. Charles Apoki. That is many of you who are social media savvy, many of you on your WhatsApp, and many of you on YouTube and Facebook, you must have been seeing his videos. You must have been seeing his inspirational videos that he's been sharing, and they speak to the heart of the ills of the society. His videos, he doesn't only make those videos for making videos sake, but his videos are things that pricks the mind, to get the mind to think. Without further ado, I will bring the guest in this evening. We will have a relaxed conversation. Our conversation is going to range from his worldview of how he understands the things happening in Nigeria, in Africa, and again, he is a pastor, and we want to also understand from his own perspective the things happening within the Christendom or within the religious cycle. Like I said, welcome once more. Good evening, Dr. Charles Apoki.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be with you.
Okay, so Doctor, here in Nigeria, we want the big titles, so, but, whoever earned it, I understand you're a medical doctor. Can we please meet you? Can you tell us more about yourself?
Okay. I usually start from my secondary school because most of what you see today were formed in my secondary school days. The discipline, the articulation, and whatever. I attended government college, Uwili. I subsequently went to Federal Government College, Warri, where I did higher school. Then I went to College of Medicine, University of Ibadan. I went in 79, left 84. Then I did internship at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital and the Warri Central Hospital, went for youth service at Aba. I was medical officer of health for Aba local government area then. Subsequently, after youth service, I was into private medical practice. I opened my first practice at number 12 Ukegbu Road. I was 29 then, I started quite early. Then I stayed in Aba for 15 years. When I was 23, I made up my mind I would not practice medicine beyond the age of 40. I considered it too restrictive. I wanted to live the kind of life I'm living now. So I'm a missionary. I'm an ordained clergyman. I'm a farmer. I run a school. I found out that one of the ways to change Nigeria is to start raising a new generation. And the school is such that I spend about 16 years or 14 to 16 years with the students. One that came into my nursery school today has graduated, some years back has graduated and is a teacher in my school. So I found out that if I can raise a new generation of Nigerians, Sigmund Freud said that the personality of an adult is formed 75% within the first 5 years of life. So I found out that I could raise a new set of Nigerians. So I run schools and I am an author, I write books, but I have a passion for Africa. I go to do economic missionary works in different African nations from South Sudan, Sierra Leone, Ghana, South Africa, Madagascar, and all that. I try to relate to them that poverty is not necessarily from demons, and prayer does not necessarily make you wealthy. I try to marry the relationship between the nation of Israel, Abraham and his productivity, Isaac and his productivity, with present-day contemporary African mentality about just doing all night and falling under anointing. And I also try to demonstrate to them by my practical living the things I do. And I'm a consultant to state governments and I lecture entrepreneurship at the Federal University of Petroleum Resources at EFUN. I speak to different denominations. I'm a villager. I am a bushman. I live in a suburban area.
Okay.
I am married. I have 4 children. I'm a grandfather. My eldest son is a doctor in Germany. He's doing residency in orthopedics. I have a daughter who is the administrator of my school. She gave me a granddaughter. I have one who is doing a PhD in software engineering in Romania. He is a businessman, had his own company before he went for youth service. And I have my last child, who is also an administrator in my school. He just came from Europe. So I want to build an enduring family business that can live one generation to the other. That's something that is very defective in the African business sector.
Wow. That is a very loaded introduction. I mean, as you said, you were a pastor, you are a farmer, and you're a medical doctor. Now, did you fulfill your mission of not practicing medicine, after 40 years?
Yes. One of the reasons I didn't want to practice medicine beyond the age of 40 was that I saw one of my professors during Buhari's first advent. He was asking a Fulani cattle dealer for money during the currency exchange. And I said, if my professor can be begging a Fulani cattle dealer for money, why don't I just stop at the general practice level and battle the issues that plagued me and have motivated me in life? Number one, I come from a very poor background. The coat I wore for matriculation, I borrowed it. The shoes I used to do my final exams and the coat I borrowed. So instead of me to go and be like this professor, let me just go into general practice, make money so that my children can become the specialists. So at the age of 40, I sold the hospital and came to Gili, and I've had a fulfilled life. I'm enjoying my life.
Wow. Thank you very much, Doctor. Now, I also learned that you've written a couple of books. Would you talk us through, in terms of the books that you have written?
Yes. My flagship book is Money is an Idiot. I found out that the perception about money that the church is trying to portray and school has taught us, we try to make it seem very difficult in our mindset to the process of making money. But I found out that money is a very lazy person, if I personalize money. So I wrote about Money is an Idiot. Then I wrote about the philosophy of the ant. When we share testimonies in church, a pastor will just say, somebody gave me 1 million, gave me 10 million. Not every person starts life like that. So I wrote about the philosophy of the ant, the principle of gradualism, the principle of using small units to build big structures. I also wrote about the oil of marriage. When I got married at 26, and my wife was 24. I got married during youth service, and there were issues and complications like that we had sexually that I wanted to teach people how to overcome them: premature ejaculation, loss of libido, frigidity. It's one book that has made waves. I tried to teach things that the church is ashamed and afraid of teaching. Then I also wrote about creating wealth. I've written about becoming outstanding. How do people become outstanding? Is it just by falling under anointing and breaking plastic chairs, or touching or sowing seed into Dr. Apoki's life? Yeah, I believe that in the Bible we have principles, we have the principalities, we have precedents, we have patriarchs. But if an unbeliever knows the principles of the kingdom more than a Christian, he will excel more than the Christian. So I've written that, and I've written several other books that I might not remember now.
Okay. So now because I think one of the books that I found interesting, even if it's from the topic, is the one you just mentioned. that money is an idiot.
Yes.
So what's the theory behind that book?
Yes. An idiot has no religion. Money has no religion. If a Muslim knows how to make money more than a Christian, the money of the Christian will go into the hands of the Muslim. He has no religion, he has no opinion. An idiot has no opinion. Some of the richest men that have ever lived in Africa were Muslims. Mansa Kankamusa was a Muslim, and Dangote is a Muslim. So it has no religion. Money has no restraint. It cannot tell you, sir, I'm finishing from your hand. No. When money has no label, when it leaves your hand, it goes to another person's hand. You cannot go there and ask the money, were you not my money? It doesn't have an opinion. So money is such that once you know how to trap money, you will keep trapping money. You will keep making money. Once the processes, countries, I don't know how to pronounce this small European nation, Liechtenstein or what, I don't know how to pronounce it. They can tell you the number of millionaires they want to make in a year. So creating millionaires and creating wealth is a deliberate process. And once you know how to control a thing, that thing becomes an idiot in your hand. But the problem is that idiots can't control money. Money controls idiots. And money will not even advise you. So it's an idiot.
So does that flow with your concept where I read that you want to build 1 million entrepreneurs? Does
Yes.
that mean entrepreneurs become millionaires?
Yes, I have been traveling around Africa, as I told you, and I've been trying to interact with the Africans in the diaspora. That's why I went to Australia to speak to Africans in the diaspora there. The point is that I want breaking poverty is not by throwing money at the people. If you give somebody who has an entrepreneurial education and wisdom 10 million within a space, and give somebody who is a graduate and doesn't have entrepreneurial wisdom, in a space of 10 years, the man that has entrepreneurial experience will make 10 million, while the one that is a graduate and has 10 million will start looking for money. So, and since it is a process I have experienced, a process I have lived, a process I have demonstrated, I want to, as much as possible, share it with 1 million Africans who will subsequently teach other Africans. I draw my inspiration from 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2. What you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable men who are able to teach others. So I try as much as possible to relay what has happened in my life, and it's a demonstrable life. I demonstrate what I live. It's practical, and the people who have related with me have seen it work in their lives. So I'm going to build a school, Petra Institute. I've bought 30 acres. We've started we've molded blocks there. We are believing God for money to build it. So in that school, we're not going to just carry notebooks. We're going to teach agriculture so that people can create employment after they leave school by employing others and generating food for people to eat. I will tell you about my agricultural practices. Then we're going to do fashion and designing. We're going to do IT training so that Africa will not be left behind again. And then I have a very beautiful school here. We're going to do early child education. Early child education so that in some countries, they don't give grades to students in the beginning. We want to train Nigerians. When a child is crying and you don't attend to that child on time, that child starts behaving like our kind of SARS that we have now and the government that we have. When you see a child crying as if it's disturbing you. So we want to teach people early child education to mold the next generation to be compassionate, to mold the next generation to have value for comfort and for each other. And by the time we do this, and I go to these nations and replicate them by training pastors and denominations, I will have at least left a legacy in Africa.
Wow, that's a very that's a very fantastic because when I read 1 million entrepreneurs, I'm like, how are you going to do it? So what's your timeline? What's your timeline of achieving this? How many years have you given yourself to do this?
One of the reasons I stopped practicing medicine is that I don't like being boxed. I can start the process, and then the process will just be growing by itself, like as Samson tied the foxes and lit fire on their tails. What we're doing now, and I have, frankly speaking, if it's in Nigeria, you are doing this, the calls that will come in will overwhelm the station because several people have benefited from what we are doing. Number one, I run a radio program that covers about 11 million people in the Niger Delta every Wednesday. I also do financial empowerment programs with the foundations, Salimo Wits Foundation in Lagos. In fact, they sponsor the broadcast. We go to communities, like last year we went to 4 communities. We went to Ifikporo, we were at Otokutu, we were at Okwokoko, we were at Zoro. One of the communities, Otokutu in particular, we train people in a church to repair handsets, to do makeover, to do snacks, and to do beads and all that. Within a space of 3 months, the offering and the tithe of the church increased 300%. And then, surprisingly, people were in church and they were doing illicit businesses like selling cannabis and all that. Within a space of 3 months, they stopped such rubbish businesses. And then there was no unemployed adult female within a space of 3 months. And I was there this year, again, for their Thanksgiving. I was surprised at the transformation that has taken place. I give you one of the experiences I had at one of the communities. The boy that came to teach them how to repair handsets, they stole his jacket. The people that he came to teach stole his jacket. But after some time, when they started making money, one of them said in Nigerian language, guy, that this man, they make us the chop, so we return in jacket to them. So they returned the jacket. So thank God for the Delta State government through the special advisor on entrepreneurship, Barrister Mrs. Iyasere. I'm going to do 2 slots of broadcast to the people of Delta State on entrepreneurship and then building enduring family businesses. And I've been going around churches. I work with oil companies and cooperatives and the Assemblies of God Church in particular. I must commend them. I went around Nigeria during the time of Barrister Azuka Obi of blessed memory, their men's director. I went around all the states in the country teaching about money is an idiot and entrepreneurship. So it's a process that we've started and I can see the results, tangible results.
Okay, so you said you spent a considerable amount of time in Aba. So does
Yes.
So are you one of those? I mean, are you? Do you speak Igbo?
Kelechi, Adam bụ Chidimma, onye tụrụ ya bụ Chima. Then my last born bụ Uzodimma agara ya ugboro abụọ. Ụmụ nwa nwa Igbo. All Nigerian answer Igbo names. But one of the things I decided to do is that if there is any ill in Nigeria, whatever you don't like in Nigeria, correct it in yourself.
Yes. Correct
it in your little sphere. I speak Igbo. I'll be in Aba by December 5th or thereabout. I imbibed the spirit of the Igbo man. In fact, my neighbors didn't know I was Urobo for many years. They thought I was an Igbo man. I live like an Igbo man. And it's been a blessing. There was a stimulus when I got to Aba. I left the Urobo area, the Delta area. When I got to Aba, I saw tall story buildings owned by young men. I saw businesses, I saw whatever. And I told myself, if Olam, I have lost. So I rejigged my brain, I reactivated my brain, reorganized it, changed my consumption pattern, changed my attitude and disposition to life. And I really benefited from living in the East.
So what you're saying is that your worldview was shaped by the time you spent within the Southeast.
To a great extent, if in terms of enterprise, in terms of business, at the same time, I discovered one thing, that the Igbo man is one of the most misunderstood persons in Nigeria. The Igbo man you meet in Kano is not the typical Igbo man at home. The Igbo man you meet in Kano is a competitor. He came to compete there, came to do business there. The traditional Igbo man in Isialangwa or Hunrumwekwensu, wherever, or Hafia, the traditional Igbo man thinks that he should take care of you as a stranger more than his brother, so that you will not live with a wrong impression. And because he knows that his brothers are elsewhere, living and doing businesses there. So my experience was that the Igbos loved me. There was the first thing that made me to want to settle there. My colleagues that schooled in UI and came from Warri, we left our bag of clothing inside a taxi. And the taxi man brought the clothing back to 810 Park Road, where I was quartered as a youth corper. I said, no, these fellows, if they can behave this way, then it is worth living with them. And I never suffered oppression. And then didn't suffer somebody strangulating me. I had 10 job offers. At the age of 26, I was running a 26, 27, I was running a 40-bed hospital. I had a car. In fact, I bought a car during youth service. I married during youth service, and I had a swell time. Frankly speaking, I'm an Aba man.
It's good. So, I mean, your time in Aba helped you, basically develop probably more interest in the entrepreneurship, right? Now,
yes.
Were there things that, the younger ones watching us today, were there things you can say to the world that is so unique about the experiences you had in Aba regarding entrepreneurship that can help in the way they need to conduct their lives today in order to succeed? Because, like you rightly said before, many times I just keep wondering, how come that from nothing, those men in Aba then were able to build, I think 3-story, 4-story buildings out of nothing? But now these days, the younger ones believe that if no one helps them, they're not going to probably get anywhere.
You see, after the Civil War, 20 pounds or 10 pounds was given to the average Easterner. I could read newspapers then. And you see people like Ekene Dilichukwu, who got money from a reverend father, was able to multiply that money, came back with a vehicle, and the white man named the vehicle Ekene Dilichukwu. I saw the Igbos come back with torn trousers. I saw them doing menial jobs. And within a space of time, a lot of them started practicing some of the things I will share with you now. Number one, never look down on anything that can feed you, no matter your certificate. You see, I use my SUV to carry poultry manure. I was the first bus driver of my school. I drive my school bus. Anything that can feed you, don't look down on it. And if you want to build your business, be ready to step. There's a saying in Aba, if you bend down, you go see Aba. So the bending down to look at life and be humble enough to start from anything you are doing to grow it is such that is one of the great benefits I learned from the East. Remove shame from your face and then bend down to do that thing that can feed you and your family instead of begging. The next thing is that I learned in the East is the principle of prudence. Prudence. The average Aba man is a very prudent person. He manages his funds in such a way that he has reserve. He doesn't just consume things because of flamboyance. That helped me. I'm very frugal. very, very frugal with my money. I don't throw money around anyhow. You can see what I'm wearing. Before I went to the East, I was the typical flamboyant South person. But I now learned that you must do dissimulation, behave as if you are not up to what you are supposed to be. So I learned that. Then I learned hard work. I just came from the farm to do this interview. Yesterday, I uprooted plantain suckers to sell. I harvested 13 and a half bags of cucumber I sold, and I work hard. So the other thing I learned is that the Aba man, if he wants to sell something to you, he will tell you, he will say, come, I have it. Okay, sit down. Okay, Chuku, go with your full malt to get your fuma nebe mama nkechi. He said, go and bring one cold bottle of malt for you. So when you treat your customers like royalty, you get their loyalty. If you treat customers like trash, you can't get their cash. The reason he sent you to go to send the boy to Mama Nkechi's place to bring malt to get your fuma, he knows that you are thirsty. And he knows that you will like the malt.
And you will pay for it.
And you will pay for it eventually. And because it will take time for the young boy to go to buy malt from a distance, you will be pricing with him. And when you are haggling with an Aba man, he does not get angry. 20,000, 18 unko, 5 unko, you get the green one. Mommy, you don't try. Then when you buy, Okechukwu, put in here, Gani motor, help Okechukwu carry these things to the car. The Okechukwu will carry them. By the time you get home, this man that can feed you and buy your whole family will call you, Mommy, you don't reach house. Mommy, Daddy. It's your money he's interested in. So I learned that I use my SUV to carry school children. I put them on my back. I sweep my school toilet. Recently, somebody saw me at the gate of the school, a woman selling beef. Somebody called me, come. I went to meet her. I said, go call me HM. I went and called headmistress. Headmistress spoke warrior English. Said, your mumu go kill you. Now my guy, you send message. So, but it doesn't take anything from me. It builds my business. I'm able to train my children. I'm able to be an outstanding Nigerian. So I learned that from the East. Then the ability to dare. I'm sure if they search the moon very well, they might see an Igbo man there. The ability to dare. You know, when I was importing cars as a medical doctor, I could drive throughout the night from Lagos to Aba, do operations the next day. Fear of the unknown does not really frighten me from taking a step. Then the thing about Aba is that you see somebody, he's talking about Belgium, he's talking about France, he's talking about this, talking about that. In this town that we are living in, you that is not as educated as myself, you are going to getting letter of credit, going to Belgium, going to this, I say, no, I will become a global citizen too, and I will import things. So I started importation in Aba before I came to Ogili. So those are some of the things that affected me.
Wow, it's really nice to hear the stories. I mean, how well we live.
Let me quickly say something. The mentoring scheme, the Omodibo, the mentoring scheme in Aba has produced more graduates, more millionaires and billionaires than the whole Nigerian universities together.
That is the capital venture.
Yes, that principle of learning under somebody, having a mentor. You see, when you have a mentor, it gives you method. He will show you methods. He will give you materials when you are living. He will introduce you to men, another M. Then he has you in his memory. Then he gives you momentum. A child carried on the shoulder sees a masquerade more than an adult standing on the floor.
That's correct.
By the time you have people who you mentor, who mentor you, you see when a market burns in the East, it's easily rebuilt. But when it burns in other parts of Nigeria, it takes a lot of effort. It's because when they suffer losses, there is a big financial base that is family-based and relationship-based. And it generates what I call love capital to rebuild their companies. And so if you go to Siaka Stevens Street in Sierra Leone, a lot of the automobile spare parts shops are owned by Igbos. My friend in Maputo is the only person selling agro parts in Maputo, in Mozambique. He has taken his brothers there. Until we take this mentoring scheme very seriously as a model in the development of Africa and our economy in Nigeria, we must take it seriously. If we don't take it seriously, these certificates we get from universities without experiences, mentoring system, and discipline will not take us far.
Wow, that is a very fantastic point that you've noted there. Like what they call the venture capital. Many of us were actually surprised when I think we saw Europeans begin to write book about the venture capital scheme, or rather what they call Igbo Dibo in an Igbo. Some say is boy scheme,
Yes.
And I think a case in point was the Alaba International Market.
Yes.
Because they were actually very, very surprised to see that every single person being interviewed will say, my master, meaning they all, served someone. And even today, you will see successful people. There was a time, I think I had a Senator Ifanyuba speaking, and he was referring to Ibeto, the one that has Ibeto Cement, as his, master in this case.
Yes.
And you see all of them, and they will tell you Chikasin, and the other one is what's it called, the Koscharis. And even in a small place in Inewi, you can see a small town that has mastered the act of mentorship, excel more.
Yes.
You see someone, he starts into luxurious business with one, what they call akuche then, is old Brazilian boss. They will bring it, panelbate it properly, spray it, write their name, and they start. I know when we used to go from Onitsha to Adamawa or Sokoto then, sometimes when you enter those Bukara bus, it might take you 2 days. But at the end of the day, you get there. At the end of the day, you get there. So I think, I think I quite appreciate.
Let me quickly relate this to the Middle East, to the Syrians, to the Jews, to the Lebanese. Carlos Slim is a Lebanese immigrant to Mexico. You see, in the Middle East, you have family businesses. So the mentoring system is in the family. I met somebody in South Sudan that is one of the owners of the Falcon Group in South Sudan. He was born in Sierra Leone, has a master's degree from the UK, and he was now in South Sudan helping his uncle to build his business. The uncle will in turn help him. One of the richest families in the world is the Sabanci family. They are in Turkey. I think they pay 5% of the annual tax of Turkey. Wow. It has been a family business from generation to generation. And today, a woman is heading it. But let me quickly tell you that the first university in the world is in Fez, in Morocco, the Al Qarim University. It was two sisters who got an inheritance from the business of their family, Fatima and the sister that built it. It is the oldest continuously degree awarding university in the world. Google it. The roof is green, Al Qarim University. So you see that Dangote is not that because somebody prayed for him. Dangote's forefathers were into business, kola nut trade, granite trade, and all that. And Pa Al Hassan Dantata said that he wanted Dangote to be a model, but that's why Aliko means Alexander, conqueror of whatever. So you now see that Dangote had a pedigree, had mentoring under Musa Dantata. So, and he was able to be introduced, I said, momentum and whatever. So there's a family in Nablus that has been producing soap for the past 400 years. The Jewish families you see all over the world, like you take the Rothschilds, for example. The Rothschilds have been determining the price of gold for more than 200 years. And so when family businesses, and when we talk about where Africa missed it, maybe you will remind me of what I'm supposed to say next.
Yes. We will come to where, where we actually missed it, because
Yes.
all these things the narratives you've given are the things that happened in the past. And it appears these things are no longer the way they ought to be now. But
let's say something. One other thing you will not take away from the East is the acquisition of skills. Skill acquisition. Skill acquisition, if we must transfer it to the next generation of Igbos. That is to say, no matter how educated you are, try and acquire a skill. When you acquire a skill, you have something you can transfer to your children, to your brothers outside academic certificate. So when you acquire skill and it is demanded, one way or the other, it is money that comes to look for you.
It's, there you are actually very, very correct, because I remember in my secondary school days, these are the things that we think about, or many don't even, wouldn't think about today. We finish school, I think around 2, you don't go home, you go to the shop.
Yes.
So you stay in the shop between 2 and 6 before the shop closes. Everyone will now go home the same time. Now, within that time, obviously we had the helps, or the ones with my parents then.
Yes.
Whatever they were doing, you have to do it with them, because you had your shop wear. You come in, you change your school uniform, you wear your shop wear, and when you put in your shop wear, you're the same thing with them. You're treated the same way. There is, and the things we did then were skill acquisition, because that's when you start, getting negotiation skills,
communication skills, customer relation.
Exactly. So, and these were things people went to universities to learn, but we started them early, learning them as kids. Honestly, it's indeed a fantastic topic to discuss with you. Now, I want to come to, a little bit down to some theories. Because I've been following you, I see you as a man who has, you want to relate some of the things you say with theories. You have some theories. One is the one you call the fight of the oligarchies, and the balloon theories. So can we start with the fight of the oligarchy? Because fight of the oligarchy is probably the one many watching now will relate to. When we had the NSAS, you put up a theory that explained the NSAS protest properly. Can you throw more light on that?
Okay. I have a master's degree in public administration.
Okay.
And I always try to explain my teachings and whatever with a theoretical framework. There's the iron law of the oligarchy. The iron law of the oligarchy states that when an organization, sociological, whatever, wants to start, it is usually started with a very good motive. But after a time, a few individuals corner the lucrative and juicy portion of the relationship of the association to themselves. And they hold it with an iron fist so that no other person rises to come and enter that elite class without their consent and permission. So in Nigeria, after the colonial masters left, the internal colonialists who believed that they fought for independence, and though some of them didn't even fight, now sat on the vacancies that the colonial masters left, and they want to have a monarchical tendency over the citizenry. And they will do anything to make sure that the people are put down so that the people cannot remove the meat they eat from their mouth. So the iron law of oligarchy and the way the oligarchy fights. The way the oligarchy fights is simple. I have traced revolutions and revolts and demonstrations from several countries till date. Now, the first thing is that the oligarchy does not voluntarily hand over power. Power is entrenched within their families, their in-laws, their cronies, their religious groups, and whoever they deem fit to use as a servant. So if you are demonstrating against them, the tendency is to come forcefully. The way security agents are designed in underdeveloping nations, not developing nations, underdeveloping nations that are sinking, is such that the armed forces and the police are agents of intimidation and oppression. That's why you see Nigerian police force. They come by force. And it has been like that. So the next thing is that when they will target a few troublesome ones, people who they think are vocal, and deal with them. When they deal with them, the rest people will scatter and fear will grip the people. They propagate the fear further by driving some into exile. They propagate it further by assassinations in different countries. In the Philippines, Aquino was assassinated. Then go to Uganda today, you see Bobby Wine being troubled. Kudirat was assassinated. They will assassinate their opponents and fear. Then the next thing is that they might clamp down on your businesses. Then false accusation. The constitutions in most countries can be used to intimidate you anyhow, anyway, anywhere. And so then they will bring the religious system. They will say this man is a Muslim, this is a Christian. If you go to Central African Empire, after Emperor Bokassa left, and there was crisis recently, they brought Muslim, Christian divide, Muslims and Christians start fighting each other. Then they will now bring regional politics. He's a northerner, he's a southerner. Then they bring party. They want to remove your UNPP or GDP. So when they bring this divide, it's a way of destabilizing the minds of the populace who already suffer from what I call Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome, if a kidnapper kidnaps somebody, rapes the person, particularly a lady, traumatizes the person, after some time, the person traumatized, whether it is masochism, I don't know, which is a psychological defect of enjoying pain, falls in love with the tormentor and the oppressor. The way it is in Nigeria and most third world nations, it is the so-called oppressed people, that even prop up the oppressor. And so when there's unity of purpose between amongst the masses, look at Gaddafi, he was thrown out. But the problem I had with the Nigerian revolt, protest, don't tell a sitting president to leave and don't force him out of office. Because he won an election, he has his own supporters. Let's start handling the changes we need piece by piece. I give you countries where sitting presidents were pushed out at once. In Iran, the Shah of Iran was pushed out. There was a lot of crisis, a lot of bloodletting. In Uganda, Idi Amin fled. Professor Lule came, several fights and all that and battles. In Syria, this man survived. But if you go to Egypt, Mubarak was thrown away. Even those who led the revolt did not benefit from it, as the other man is there now. So when a nation has political challenges, economic challenges, and there is the need for social change, it should not be by throwing away the present leader.
But may I step in here? But
yes.
The NSAS protest was never about the regime change. It was about the 5 points that the youth raised, and also whatever addendum that was coming later wasn't what the NSAS stood for.
In the mainstream, You know, it was a leaderless movement.
Yes.
In the mainstream, those are the Lekki toll gates. You will hear 5 for 5 or 5 plus 5, whatever. But there were peripheral agitations that were not controlled by the center of Buhari must go. This one must do this. This one must do that. The oligarchy will never want to hear that.
Yeah, but those were not, I mean, you see, I think, let's put it this way, that the NSAS was leaderless was a strategy. They had leaders, and the leaders were known anyway, for those who knew what was happening. The concept of being leaderless is because to break that jinx whenever you have protest and one person is being approached or two people are being approached or two people are being threatened. But that's why you saw when the even the day of that shooting, when they were demanding that if the Lagos State governor sent someone to come and meet them, and according to DJ Swish, she was saying they told the governor to come and address them.
Yes,
they are not sending their representative, but the governor should come and address them. In that sense, the governor would have come there, said whatever he needed to say to all of them. You just mentioned Sowore now. The only reason why Sowore was is still being incarcerated as we speak, because he's been granted bail, but he cannot go beyond Abuja. What sort of bail is that? So that's a conversation for another day. Is because his own revolution now has a head. So the youth, having learned from all these mistakes, just came up with something that got even the government confused. That for a while, the government didn't know what hit them. So eventually they, that's why you saw them using DSS.
I agree with you. And I will borrow Sheung Kuti's word, infantilizing. This Baba Shege, Baba Apoki, Papa this, we tend to still look at 35-year-old men, 40-year-old men as our children. Mm-hmm. You understand? And therefore, because of the African paternalistic, oppressive tendency, you will see that when your children are suggesting to you, that's why family business is even there. My last born told me recently, he said, Daddy, the problem with business in Africa is that you, our fathers, you run with the baton until you fall down and collapse. That when we come to you, we don't know whether to pick the baton or to resuscitate you. Showolu should have gone there to address them. The man that came from the House of Assembly in Abuja was talking to them as if he was talking to his houseboys. They shouted him down, who are you? So there was a failure in the part of government not to take them seriously and to address them.
And even to say that, I mean, honestly, there was no single reason, because the president could have arrested the whole thing early enough if he was humble enough to actually, he wouldn't die. I mean, the security would be there. He would just go and speak to them. There is a manner, you speak to people, people would actually listen, no matter what. Even if
let me tell you something. In the mind of the oligarchy in Nigeria, you are a conquered people.
Sure.
You are a conquered people. That's why they make statements from people like Ngige that will just sit down there. You are a mushy boy. Ngige, I know your local government area. I know your town. What's there? You are boasting with another man's area that is developed. You want to intimidate the man. So if he's from Mushi, so what? What of me from Okere? Does it give Ngige a right to talk to me anyhow? You went to medical school. I went to medical school. Are you following what I'm saying? So there is this, and we also treat women like that. You marry a woman, you see her as your slave and whatever. So this paternalistic, and then let me now use Sheung's term, infantilizing, whatever phenomenon that we have. But then let me go to the two-tribe theory. The two-tribe theory, I stated there that there is no northerner, there is no southerner. There is poverty universally in the country. We have the elites, we have the poor. We have even in the Fulani tribe, there's the Gidan Fulani and there's the nomadic Fulani who is in the forest with the cows, and the ownership in Meiti Allah, who are the sit in air-conditioned offices while somebody's in the bush. In the north, you have the beggars, you have those who are polishing shoes, you have Amajiri, then you have the elite class who control maybe 99.9% of the resources that go to the north. The same thing with the south. Poverty is here. They are offering microphone, and people are practicing a course called phintology. There's a new course in Nigeria, it's called phintology. When you are pressed to the corner, then you faint, and then we don't hear anything about it again. You see, the elite, you have the opportunists who grab oil wells because we didn't know anything about oil wells. Danjuma had oil well, and then he said he didn't know what to do with the money. Now, when Danjuma's tribe are being traumatized, Danjuma started crying. But you took the northern position, grabbed oil wells, took the military position, grabbed oil wells, and now you are saying that the military is infiltrated by bandits. So the Nigerian, when they want to steal our money, there is no Christian, there is no Muslim. So it's just two tribes of the poor and then the rich. But let me quickly say this. What the EndSARS protest tried to achieve was social justice, a classless society. I've said in several interviews, I schooled with the secretary, the children of the secretary to the state federal government. I schooled with the former governor of Lagos State, Ambode, at FGC Warri. I had all kinds of people in medical school with me. Odutola's granddaughter was in medical school with me. But my father was a refuse collector. My father was a security guard in a hotel. So you notice that during the EndSARS protest, they were feeding every person. When Muslims wanted to pray, Christians stood around them. They saw a policeman who was running away, traffic warding. They gave him food, gave him drinks, gave him water. Then they saw one girl with one leg. They raised money. They were building the ideal Nigeria that was in the first national anthem. Help us to build a nation where no man is oppressed. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. That classless society, that society of social justice, like Aisha Yusuf said, where a nobody's child can become somebody without knowing somebody. So that's one of the things I saw in the EndSARS project, which I must commend and still recommend for Nigeria. So then there is the balloon theory. Every society is like a balloon. The balloon has a limit of pressure that it can take. It needs some degree of pressure to soar. It needs some degree of heat to soar. But when there are no vents for this pressure to be released, like justice, equity, a listening ear from government, the ability to take quick actions concerning disputes and disagreements from the populace. If these avenues are not there, the tension builds, then it explodes. After President Tito in Yugoslavia, Yugoslavia had Croatia, Albania, Montenegro, Serbia, and Kosovo. There were tensions that were building up that Tito was able to suppress. But after the advent of Tito, those
Okay, I think we have a slight network challenge there. We have a slight network challenge. So if he's able to come back, then we will continue. Okay. So sorry about that. We have a network challenge from his end. and sadly he has, the network has logged him off. So we hope that he is going to come back again. Then we continue this conversation. It's been an enlightening conversation, hence the reason why we reached out to him to have him here so that we would tap from his wealth of wisdom. Now, Dr. Charles Apoki, can you kindly unmute yourself? Nice to have you back again.
So
Yes.
the, the oligarchy must not ever deceive themselves that they can suppress the agitations in this country perpetually. A time will reach when the balloon theory will happen. If you study empires, from Mali Empire, Songhai Empire, the Hausa states, and all that, if you study the politics of large empires, the British Empire, a time comes when these different units start agitating. If care is not taken, France did their own well and had the policy of assimilation and made the peripheral territories still feel like they belong to France. But the British, because of their pride and whatever, could not accommodate dissent from people they considered as inferior to them or whatever. I think that this nation is heading in a dangerous direction where a minority of people or a class of people feel that the rest people are senseless. Then I will now bring in the Chris Agiri's theory of management, conflict in organization. Chris Agiri, an American management expert in those days, said that for every normal psychologically mature adult, a time comes when his personal goals come in conflict with organizational goals. That is to say, he will initially belong to the organization. He will initially have the interests of the organization at heart. But a time comes when he reviews himself and reviews his benefits and reviews his contribution to the oneness and the greatness of the organization, and is in conflict with his personal goals. It brings conflict. States, units of this country are getting to question a lot of things. And the time has come where people should not ever deceive themselves that this is the time of the civil war, this is the time of the jihad, this is a country that has been beaten and compressed. No. NSAS was just an indication of the frustrations of youth. The Bible says that honor your father and your mother, and it may be well with you and your days may be long. But the Bible also says, and we don't quote that part, do not exasperate your children. There's a video I saw online now. A small girl was telling the auntie, give me my palliative, give me my palliative, give me my palliative. I think that most Nigerians are asking for something. Give me either my palliative in terms of better pay, in terms of good health services, in terms of regular electricity. Then, most importantly, what is exasperating Nigerian young people is the poor and abysmal performance of leadership that is being explained away. How can you bring new trains from China recently, and trains are breaking down in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. between Kaduna and Abuja?
And they are supposed to be brand new trains, we were told.
They are supposed to be brand new trains. Rotinya Amechi, what's wrong with you? Brand new trains. Are we crazy? Then you say you want to import petrol from a country that is less developed than us.
No. You see, sorry, Prof. Doctor. When you want to talk about that one of importing petrol, you see, what I found out today is actually sad. We are going to import 20,000 liters. 20,000 liters, and this is what we already have. If we are serious for what's it called, the mini refineries.
Modular refineries.
Modular refinery, 4 of them will give us the same quantity we are going to somewhere to import. Now, and again, we are actually piping to give them the materials for us to come back. I mean, if this is not a clear case of insanity, I don't know how else to define it.
So you go to Cotonou, electricity is regular. I suspect we are the ones who supply electricity. The nearby countries, I think Niger, who supply electricity. How can, if you have parents like that, the question I always ask people, would you employ the kind of people who are mismanaging our economy to manage your private business?
I wouldn't. None of them. Starting from the presidency downward, none of them is fit for purpose. Anyway, so let's move on, sir.
Yes.
You know, we've looked at the theories. Now, can we come back to the societal things happening? Now, there is this concept, you know, that has to do with Christianity. I mean, we are from the southern part of Nigeria, and you know, everyone claims to be a Christian. Now, people attribute their failures to something happening supernaturally within, you know, their family. You know, the reason why I want to ask you this question is, I mean, everyone on this channel knows what my views are, but you are a pastor. So it would be nice to also bring you in to ask you, do you believe on the concept of ancestral causes, that someone or a tree somewhere is the one inhibiting us from progressing?
Let me make a statement that I want to remain eternal. Religion is an assassin of the intellect. It kills the brain. And it has been found that where people are very, very religious, poverty and backwardness is inevitable. So let me from theology explain my bearing. Number one, when a leper was healed in the Old Testament, which is a typology of sin, he shed, the blood was used to touch his forehead, and oil was put. His thumb was touched with blood and with oil, and then his feet were touched with blood and oil. And then when Christ was nailed on the cross at Calvary, they carried a crown of thorns and put on his head. And he bled from that pricking of the thorns. And in John chapter 20, verse 10 downwards, you will notice that there was a napkin that was folded in the womb apart from the shroud that was used to wrap Jesus Christ. There's a shroud in Turin called the Shroud of Turin that Secondo Pia took the picture, and they found an imprint of a man. But you see, that blood that stained that napkin that was put aside, it was such that man will no longer sweat from his brow before he eats, because Jesus had carried the thorns on his head that were supposed to grow from the earth. And because he was the anointed one, the oil of anointing was him personified, and then blood shed was such that man's curse had been revoked. That means as long as a man is ready to use his brain, he will do well. But let me quickly say this. When he was pierced by the side and water and blood gushed out, you know, the blood of Jesus Christ is the blood of God. Blood does not cross the placental barrier. So Mary's blood did not mix with that of Jesus Christ. And when blood congeals, it forms serum and red blood cells. So the term blood and water, when that blood, which represents the life of God, hits the earth was healed from Calvary to Madagascar to Australia to Seychelles to the Mariana Islands. All the earth healed on that day, Calvary. There are more demons in India than Nigeria, but we go there for surgery. There are more demons in China than Nigeria, but we go there to import goods. The Japanese worship the sun god until Emperor Hiro something said that he was not the sun, not a god. So the worship of sun god or whatever, if the earth of the Chinese, the soil of the Chinese, the man from Thailand that worships idol can bring rice for us, nothing is wrong with our land. I come from an idolatrous background. I come from a furoto maternally. It's my family that worships the idols there. I come from Otokutu. If you go there, the idols of my forefathers are there. How many Igbo people now witchcraft kill for Nigeria?
I mean, we don't take witchcraft build motor before.
Yeah. So as I am here, the land is healed. I grow cucumbers, I grow watermelon, I grow cassava, I want to grow potatoes. My land is blessed. Somebody just advised me to grow sugar cane. Ancestral causes. Let me quickly talk about ancestral causes. What we call ancestral causes are chromosomal tendencies or social tendencies. There are chromosomes in me. My mother was AS, my father was AS. And when they married, they had children that died. And because sickle cell anemia, the children resemble each other, they thought it was the same child coming back.
Reincarnation, Obanja.
Reincarnation. My mother-in-law married my father-in-law. He was AS, my father-in-law AS, because the AS genotype is in 25% of the blood of Nigerians. And so she had children who were dying. I was to marry, I was AS, my wife was AS. But I told her I would marry her. We've had 4 children, we don't have sickler. So some of those recurrences we have are genetic TDJs. Some of people were dying of diabetes and whatever because of obesity. Obesity will give you heart disease, obesity will give you stroke, obesity will give you diabetes. Dietary tendencies, and then behavioral patterns. You will discover that because you grew up in a household and your personality was formed within the first 5 years of life, you will discover that there are tendencies that tend to reoccur in your life like that of your father because it's the same chromosomes and in the same environment. How come the same, where do we want to, Japan should not progress, America should not even progress because they threw bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Not to talk of the Germans who killed the children of God. How many million killed them?
5 million of them.
5 million. That means
yet they are
Germany, even grass should not grow in Germany.
Yes, because they killed somebody's ancestors.
Yeah, but let me tell you, even the people that crucified Jesus Christ got home safely. Mm-hmm. They didn't die. They didn't. The people that crucified Jesus Christ, the people that stole his clothes, they got home safely. There is nothing like ancestral causes. It's not affecting us.
So let me take the question further. If you're now clearly saying there is nothing like ancestral causes, so does it confirm that it is fraud when they say they do family prayers in order to break the causes or break the ancestral causes? Because I have seen families where they come in, they do these prayers, and they say from now on you will succeed. I mean, 5-10 years, nothing has happened.
People have changed their family names from one thing, Njoku, to one thing. Their economies have not improved. If a man answering Bush can become president of the United States, and his son became president, and his son Jeb Bush became president of Florida.
No, governor of Florida.
Governor of Florida. Then it is not in the names. If the white man can come to Oliobiri and discover oil, why does the anointing of Nigerian pastors not see diamonds and see minerals located in the place? They only see where bottles are planted and eggs are planted. The Holy Spirit the God of Israel that has made Israel win more Nobel Prizes than any other nation in the world, excel in medicine, excel in the military. Why is it that our own Holy Spirit does not make people pass exams? When I went to do masters at the age of 56, I made 10 A's, not in medicine, 10 A's. I was older than every person. I made 10 A's. I have never met a white man that intimidated me with knowledge. You can see how I'm reading history and whatever, and I'm a medical doctor. So this is the development of the mind and the realization of the power of attorney that God has given to man through Jesus Christ. He said, all power has been given unto me. How would ancestral causes not affect you when you do 21 days fast, you will have hypoglycemia. You won't even reason well. Why will ancestral causes not affect you? When you are doing crossover to take over, how many days are you going to pray? What are you going to take over? The people who are going to take over, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, the rest people are planning you. They are shouting, Roboscata, send down the courier. Until the black man starts to use his brain to reason and allow the Holy Spirit to give him mysteries, we will remain backward. People will sell anointing oil, sell handkerchief to you. We, the pastors, will be getting richer and you'll be getting poorer. That's my submission. And I don't care who is offended.
Sorry. Yeah, I've been laughing. I've been seriously laughing because I can relate to what you're saying. And, when you talked about when you studied, that brings me to a point. I remember one time, studying, I had a Chinese, the Chinese, there is one thing about them, they can sit down. I mean, it depends on, I'm an extrovert. I couldn't sit down for 6 hours straight reading. I will go mad. So I need, shorter intervals. I can do other things. I come back. So not like sitting down. So you can see when when you come and you see the Chinese, they sit down and they read. If it's cram anything. But we Nigerians, before the exams, will sit down, will bow our head, will pray. And the Chinese looked at me saying, Tachoko, what are you doing? Said, I'm praying. He said, okay, fine. So after prayer, when the exam come out, we'll see who pass. I thought, it's because he obviously told you he doesn't believe in God. But he knows that whatever he's reading, where you have, because this is an environment where you have your course outlines. Everything is good. I mean, the teacher or the lecturer is not going to go outside the course outline. They've given you an outline of what's going to happen. So if you read within that outline, that's how exam is going to come out. And, when the result comes out, obviously, if you've been doing night vigil without reading, that will reflect what you will get. Because God is not a God of exam malpracticer to basically punish someone because you've been speaking in tongue all night, and someone else have to fail the exam. So when the result came out, my Chinese colleague, his exam result reflected all the good work he has put in. There is no two ways about that. That doesn't mean, there is no God.
Yes.
So, but having said that, let me.
But let me quickly say this.
Okay.
The new vaccine that is coming in Nigeria is part of the team. One of the drugs, Remdesivir or whatever, that was given to Donald Trump. An African was involved, I think Nigerian too. The vehicle called Volts that General Motors used to recover was designed by a Nigerian that finished from Kebbi State Polytechnic. I have classmates that are professors all over the world, brilliant professors. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala is there. These are two different entities. The syllabus is not in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Money was not created by God, it's a creation of man.
Mm-hmm.
Silver and gold belong to God, but we no longer use silver and gold to trade after the Bretton Woods institutions remove the gold standard so that American productivity in terms of the dollar can be the medium of exchange. So you do not use another syllabus from physics to come and read for history. We want to go to heaven. We want to do miracles. We want to be filled with the Holy Spirit. That is one syllabus. But there is another syllabus for productivity, for development, for engineering. You are a project manager.
Yes.
You understand? There are key standards of cost, quality, time.
Yes.
If the triad of cost, quality, time, and customer satisfaction is not there, pray from here till Jericho, speak in tongues. Imagine Paula White. Sometimes I wonder whether we pastors are normal. Imagine Paula White saying that angels from Africa should come and vote for
come and vote for Trump. And who gave them visa?
Are these people crazy? And you see, when you see a professor praying and he's shaking his head like a concrete mixer, know that his family problems are very high. You see, all around me here, I hear noise this Friday now, they will be shouting, Ember months to cross over. What kind of insanity? In Ethiopia, this is not the New Year period. This is not New Year period. The calendar is just a Gregorian calendar. So because that's nonsense, waste of bloody time of young men and women. And we, the pastors, are responsible for part of the backwardness in this country. All those our prayer camps, some of them should be changed to farms. Let's rear poultry, let's rear animals, then we come there and pray, but the prayer must be something that God open my eyes to see. I don't sing this song, Holy Ghost, do it again. Do it again in my life. Open my eyes to see Jesus seated on the throne. That's not what I want. I want him to open my eyes to see opportunities, to see solutions here on earth. I want the Holy Spirit. Israel does not pray against the Arab countries. Israel develops armament and intimidates them. What is it?
Oh dear, Prof, Doctor.
You can call me Prof. I will accept it.
it's. I mean, from the conversation, I think in Njenje Media TV, will henceforth confer you the honor of professor. We can issue you the certificate that is internationally recognized. Obviously, the truth, the truth is there, and I can see the comments. People watching us online, everyone is basically saying that's it. At last, someone is coming out to say it the way it is. Because the thing is, if we have to make progress, then something must change, something must give way. We cannot continue, we cannot continue dwelling in these ways of the old. I mean, it's clear insanity. You keep repeating the same thing and you want to have a different result. Where does that happen? Where does that happen?
No work.
So, Doctor, now, the question will be, in all this, we have had this conversation for over an hour now. The question is, where did we get it wrong?
Yes. I've tried to think about this over the years. I've tried to look at the pyramids of Egypt, the pyramid in Sudan. I've looked at the Benin moat that was constructed. I've looked at the way the King's Palace, all the roads radiated from the palace in Benin. And there are two things I can put my hands on. There was a point, number one, Africa is too comfortable for thoughts, for new thoughts. We don't have winter, we don't have hurricanes. In the gutters in my school, fish swims in my gutter. So comfort is an enemy of invention. Comfort is an enemy of agitation and discovery. So Africa was very comfortable, particularly the Black Africa. And Lord Lugard wrote that in his book, The Dual Mandate in 1924, 1922, that the black-skinned Africans like enjoyment, like fashion, even when it is uncomfortable. So we had a comfortable environment. Number two, the invention of the machine gun. The invention of the machine gun. And then the invention of the sail. The machine gun gave the colonial masters undue advantage. It will surprise you to know that Ethiopia defeated Italy at war in the Battle of Adwa. I think it's November 6th, 1896. So it will surprise you to know that Queen Nzagi of Angola defeated the Portuguese at war. They had balanced armaments, the one way or the other. So the invention of the machine gun was able to overwhelm African resistance. Balveramen was carried somewhere. One Ghanaian king was taken to Seychelles. Ugandan kings were taken to Seychelles. So the invention of the machine gun and the sail gave them more speed than us. Another thing I hold I hold responsible for the underdevelopment of Africa is taxation. Taxation. We had our own definition of wealth and progress until taxes were introduced. I remember when I was younger, when the tax masters are coming, everybody runs into the bush. So we now needed to pay in the currency of the white man. And by doing that, we left our developmental process and sequence and went into the labor force of the white man and became his slaves. And so we did not independently start to grow whatever, like the Oka blacksmith, the man in Benin that makes masks and all that. They say, Igun Street, you need to see what they do there. So that is there. But then religion, when religion came, Christianity came, and Islam came, the mind of the Black man was focused on a distant heaven and left the reality of the earth. And in the process, imagine the jihad of Madame Fodio came and started imposing leadership in where there were other people before. They were conscious of what leadership, politics was. And by the time you subject a people by a stranger, his mindset is angry with himself and is angry with the leadership. Then slavery came, carried us away. But that is not enough excuse. Singapore was colonized by the Chinese or the Japanese.
Yes.
India was colonized with us. There was a point when the colonial masters left, the people who took over, particularly in Africa, wanted to be more European than being true Africans. They were addicted to Europe rather than having the interest of Africa at heart. You see, the average Indian still eats with his fingers. The average Indian still wears his sari. The average Indian still speaks his language. He does not struggle like me to say Elizabeth instead of Elizabeth. He does not struggle with me. He is a full-blooded Indian, used his mental capacities. We're talking about the Chinese. The Chinese, from Confucius and whatever religion they worshipped, their monks, they meditate. The Indians also meditate. The African, at a point, the thinking process was destabilized, and we became hedonistic, exchanging fellow human beings for alcohol, for mirrors, for whatever. I think that was where we missed it. Colonialism, but we will get it in my lifetime. Colonialism is no longer an excuse. Ended long time ago. Slave trade is no longer an excuse. It is docility and stupidity and hedonism that is the problem of the present day Black man.
I think on that note, I would agree with you, because obviously, you know, what you tagged as the power of the gunpowder,
yes,
obviously led to our them conquering us. And when we look at the great wars of the Benin, it was until recently that I've actually come to know that the greatest wall ever built by human on earth is in Nigeria, not somewhere else. They said it's 6 times longer than the walls of China. But no one tells the story. No one talks about it. So we hear the great walls of China, but we don't ever hear the great walls of Benin.
Yes.
So one of the, that's like I was telling you before we started, one of the reasons we must change the narrative, one of the reasons this channel exists is that these are the stories, like the Chinua Achebe said, we must tell our own stories.
Yes.
The great walls of Benin is in our own part of the world, yet nowhere, nobody knows about it, not even us. Not even
like
us.
The university I said is in Fez, Morocco, the Al Qaray University. You don't read it in the books, but I knew that as an 18-year-old young man. You know, I deliberately have read about Africa and the great strides Africa made.
Now, you know, when I talk about where we got it wrong, I was watching a video I think you did yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yes.
Or I think was it today, if I'm not mistaken, because I think in the course of the interview, I've really watched a couple of your videos to understand your, line of thinking. And one of them was the cultism in Delta State, which appears to be something that is going out of hand, where the youth are now killing themselves. What do you have to say?
If you go to Google, as I said in that post, and Google the dangers of cultism, my name used to be the first name. I don't know if any other name has overtaken it. have been working on cultism for years. Now, one of the things about cultism in Delta states and in southern Nigeria in particular, a man called William Thayer, his book titled Gaining Favor with God and Man, I think it was written in 1786 or 1876. He said that the devil tempts every person, but an idle mind tempts the devil. That is, a mind that has nothing to do tempts devil, but devil tempts every person. In the Niger Delta, our leadership have been extremely wicked, extremely kleptomaniacal, such that the average young man who is unemployed, who has finished university, even if he comes from a wealthy home and he doesn't have any tangible thing to engage him, sees cultism as a means of asserting his manliness. Number two, in the Niger Delta in particular, because of our multi-ethnic nature, there has been fights in between us over times. So violence is seen as a way of settling scores, and belonging to a cult group gives you that privilege and protection to be able to avenge and prevent intimidation. And so, there's something called the Dutch disease. Any place where there are mineral resources, like as when Shell discovered oil in Holland, in the North Atlantic, they left every other thing that was of economic benefit and concentrated on oil. So the control of resources, the control of power, the control of authority, the control of whatever is such that the oligarchy that had raped and stolen some of these resources recruit these young men to be their foot soldiers. And so these young men have this impunity in their minds that they can do anything and go away. And when you arrest them, these individuals will come and bail them. So the cultism in the Niger Delta, from Calabar, I used to go to the New Arts Theater to talk about cultism, down to Delta State here, is as a result of lack of proper focusing of the minds of our youths to the challenges facing them and the opportunities available to them.
Wow. Honestly,
and then, let me quickly say this. We have festivals. The festivals are festivals here, from the Agbasa Juju to most of the festivals we have here. They depict violence. I was passing near a shrine. It is gone that they shot at somebody and it didn't pierce the person. And the painting of a machete that was used to hit somebody and it didn't injure the person, that was painted on the wall. So there is this depiction of violence as a way of expressing your masculinity, your strength. And we must deliberately tone this thing down and bring reason to the minds of our youth.
So what you're trying to do is, are you saying that there is a link between the cultism that we see, or the cult activities that we see, probably with the traditional, that is a link with the traditional practice?
It's a cultural mindset. I give you an example. I'm in Ugeli here. Ugeli is brother to Ogo. Mm-hmm. If you read the history of Ogowa children, Ogo dug pits. Ugeli people went there, sat on the mat that was on top of the pit, and they killed them. Ugeli retaliated by attacking Ogo during the raids and killed them. So there's been a conflict, Alaja and Ogbijo, until recently that some people did a peace conference. It is kill me, I kill you. Kill me, I kill you, all over the place. We don't settle issues with dialogue. We don't settle with, in fact, let me quickly say this. If you see Northerners live in a place, Amausa, if they have crisis, there is a settlement system not the Boko Haram people I'm talking now, in the traditional northern system in Nigeria, they have a process of settling issues and disputes among themselves that they don't go to the police station much.
Yeah, I think that is traditional, even within the Igbo society, because in most markets that you have today, you see a customer buys something, goes away. If that customer wants to make trouble, even if police comes there without you informing the market union, or the association, the police cannot even arrest, even if the person has sold something fake. So you must go through that process. I think there is this dispute resolving mechanism already inbuilt in most of the traditional Igbo society, or rather in most of the African society. But however, my question to cultism relates to, when I look at the video you make, and I've seen a couple of videos actually since the last 2 weeks, especially in Benin City.
Yes.
So it appears the hotspot now is Benin City and Edo and Benin City. So is there anything, why the two states? Why? Do they have any peculiar issue that?
Number one, we are not a homogeneous ethnic environment.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Aba, most likely, predominantly, you will see Igbos.
True.
Our environment, Warri, Ughelli, Sapele, Benin City, is an amalgam of all tribes. In that Benin there, you think that all of them are Edo. But granted, you will see Isha, Igbanke, you will see this and see that, you will see Igbos. You will see somebody born in Warri who is an Igbo thinking that he will accept that he's a Wafi man. So this amalgam of different ethnic nationalities, at the same time, polygamy, high divorce rates, children left alone with mothers, and the failure of the father figure. And then there is this attempt to leave children with wives and they are just their mothers, and then the man is there. And even the polygamy breeds the survival of the fittest, the contention, the dispute. You now see it manifest as cultism, as an extension of a monster that was already growing in the mind. So we have very negative influences in these our communities in Edo State and Delta State in particular. If you just go beyond us, you go to River State, you also have it there. You go to Cross River State, Calabar is known for cultism a great deal. So these multi-ethnic and very dynamic and volatile environments predisposes the individuals to cultism.
Oh, okay.
And then let me also quickly say this. The models that we have in the Niger Delta do not reside with us. I give you an example. And Wole Soyinka introduced pirate confraternity with his friends. If a Yoruba boy looks at Wole Soyinka, he sees a Nobel laureate. There he will see, even I don't know of the other people, he will see Rotimi Williams. He will see different kinds of models. The models in the East, Chinua Achebe, whatever, I'm not saying that there's no cultism in those areas, but you have the tendency for a young man. It was Mbadiwe and Azikiwe that were given as models by my father for me to learn how to be an orator and a public speaker. So our own models live in Lagos and London. And so the models some of us see here are models that have reached the levels they are in, from violence, from thuggery, from rigging elections, from nothing they happen mentality, impunity, disrespect for rules and societal values. So what we are doing is to create new models for them. It's for people to, you see, when you want to crystallize crystals from a solution, you drop a crystal there. I'm in the Niger Delta, not because I don't have the opportunities to stay in any country. I want to raise a new generation. So we go to secondary schools to talk about the dangers of cultism. We go to universities and all that. Let me quickly say this. The churches in this country, particularly in the Niger Delta, have failed woefully in addressing the issue of cultism. You can see that post I made from my car in one place, as at the last time, is more than 6,000 views. In another, it's close to 3,000 views from all over the world. I'm just one pastor. If all the big pastors in my state come out and vehemently speak about cultism, the danger, the evil, the offensive and repugnant nature of cultism, I think that these large crowds that attend our church services, they are listening to us on radio, we will have a leeway in changing the mindset of our people. The church has failed in that aspect. And then our traditional rulers, they know these boys. They know these boys. Call them to the palace. Call elders. Call the DPO. Call the DSS. Tell them, we want peace now. If not, we will come after you. There will be peace.
But how would they do that if these, well, boys, men, as they were, if they are the same people somehow coming to settle the elders?
Don't go to that area. You have a very solid point there. It's like a federal government setting up a probe panel to probe whether they shot people at Lekki.
That's a rhetorical question. Then I don't want an answer to that one. So we will be rounding up. I mean, people online are basically saying, I should say, a very thank you for coming. But before I let you go, Doctor, let's come back to something that many people here has equally raised, and it has to do with the destruction of African artifacts. I mean, as a pastor, now my view is that I am a Christian. I do not worship idol, but when I look at those carvings, the artistic and the man hours used by the ancestors to carve them, and we see pastors of today come and destroy them. What's your view? Isn't something that we all should condemn from them to, rather than destroy them, shouldn't they send them to museums? Because
when Iraq is a Muslim nation, Abraham originated from the Ur of the Chaldeans. And one of the biggest museums in the world was in Baghdad. And the images, the artwork of the Babylonian era, including their cuneiform writings, were stored in the museums. Now, for me, those things are artwork. We all know that no power resides in an idol.
That's correct.
It is your fear, your ignorance that idolatry works on. It is true there are demons, but if Jesus has, there are towns in Japan that the Americans have occupied. They have bases there. They are occupying them. That's how Jesus has occupied. He says he made a public show of all principalities and powers and handed over power to us. I believe that those artifacts are artworks. There is no spirit in them. It's a history of our development and our creativity. But let me also say, there's a festival that is danced in my area here. It's called Ekene Festival. It is danced in Agbara, where Igbo comes from. The masquerade is so tall. and it comes out maybe every 20 years, every 12 years. At a point, the person who was tying part of it got converted or was no longer alive. And the pastor of that member told me that the man was told to come and tie one part of it. And they asked him, is there any sacrifice done to tie it? He said, no, it's an artwork. And he went there and tied for them. For me, when somebody shoots at you and the bullet does not penetrate you, it's a science that we have not understood.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody machetes you, you're talking, listen, you're talking with me from the UK now, and I'm here. Is it not the witchcraft people were describing that they used to fly to UK to press somebody? So I believe that it's science. Science has advanced to my level and your level talking. Do you know there is a new application? It will look as if I'm in the same room with you.
Yes.
I saw Barack Obama and
even here we can do it. Is called green screen. It's very easy. Yeah.
When I told somebody in South Africa that the time will come, we'll be talking by phone, you'll be seeing me and I'll be, I said, doctor, you have come again with your fabulous stories. So shooting somebody and the gun does not enter. It's a science, but because we lack the ability to write, we cannot explain it. It's just like the discovery of how to make coffee. Don't you ever imagine how coffee was discovered in the Kaffe province in Ethiopia, and how they knew that hot water will extract it? How do you know the inspiration that somebody used to know that sugar cane can be extracted and sugar can be produced? So it is because the white man is able to explain his own. I don't get frightened by images that were carved by men. I don't get frightened. In fact, one of the days I treated a patient when I was still very rascally. I did a heniography for him, and he ran to his village in Akwa Ibom. I had a practice in a clinic in Akwa Ibom. I got there. He said, I didn't have money and he was not well. And he was not ready to pay me. I saw his shrine, a juju sitting on a chair. I told him I was carrying the juju home and he paid me my money. He paid me my money. Juju that somebody can steal. What? He paid me my money. I told him I will carry this juju home now. He paid me my money. You see, some of us, the way we understand Christianity, the way we preach, we are not normal. They think we are crazy. This one interview I've done now, they might not even invite me to their churches, but who cares?
Sorry, I'm laughing. So one of the accolades is that the man who arrested the juju.
I wanted to kidnap the juju.
That was a funny one. The man who arrested an oracle. Okay. I mean, it's good we are laughing about it, and I hope that viewers are actually learning. You know, there is something you said now that, you know, you talked about in Delta State where something would be painted on the wall, you know, a man being macheted, and probably the message being conveyed there is what they call Odieshi. And there are sometimes video skits, you know, short videos that we do watch where people portray something like that. Now, I have never allowed anyone to machete me to see if it works or not. I am not going to be that silly to try it. But, you know, from what you've just said, it just brings to mind probably how did someone actually know that there is a way you can reinforce glasses? What are those particles that you can reinforce in a glass that
and bullet cannot pierce it?
Bullet cannot pierce it. Now, it could be that here, rather than apply that that particular chemical or substance or component in glass, we have mastered the act of applying it on a naked body.
Yes.
Therefore, without explaining it, we could spiritualize it and maybe use it to scare people.
Yes.
You know, so it's, I mean, these are theories, honestly, but again,
it's also an oligarchic tendency. The man that has the date, he has to milk money from the people and threaten them. So.
Anyway, that's you know, that's a good one, doctor here. But you know, in conclusion here, what's your you know, when I look at your state, Delta State, I mean, I have to be specific here before I get to the mother of all questions, which is the final one. If I look at your state within the Niger Delta, I told you before that maybe Akwebon could be forgiven because under the former governor, who is now a senator, the one who blew the whistle that no one heard the sound, because
Yes.
upon all the whistles that he blew to today, the mic has been offed,
Yes.
you know, switched off, and nothing anymore. And we could say that Delta State has been, or rather has had the misfortune of governance, that there is nothing commensurate with the amount of resources that Delta States gets every single month. What could be at the benefit?
Number one, I will hold we, the followership, responsible for the leadership we get. Our people in Delta State in particular, and my tribe in particular, we like immediate gratification. And so if you give rapper, you give a bag of rice, the people are ready to sell their future and the future of their children to a political manipulator. And because of the fact that we live for the immediate, we are afraid to question the oligarchy. And those states just changed it. Baseki has brought a lot of development in terms of the power plant, several companies and all that. So the oligarchy holding Delta State down has used the power of enticement and political naivety of the average electorate in Delta State. And so people sustain themselves in power by throwing crumbs to the people. And the more you impoverish the people, the more you allow the place to be underdeveloped, the more they remain subservient. And so I think it's a deliberate policy after understanding the mindset of the people. I see we are an enjoyment-liking people. As I was driving around, I saw burials all over the place, people who died in poverty. They had canopies and drinks and whatever. So this pain of underdevelopment, and you know, we were a peripheral part of the Western region. Midwestern region was of the Western region. So a lot of people here, don't be surprised they've not seen Cocoa House. Don't be surprised they've not seen skyscrapers. Just like the Ijos went to Abuja and saw those buildings and saw that it was their money that was used to develop it, and resource control came. So a lot of us have not been exposed to the level of development. I was passing, I went for missionary work at the border with Cameroon, and I was coming at night. 2 a.m. I was passing Abakaliki. I could not believe that was Abakaliki I used to know. Street lights, under the flyovers were screeded with artificial lawns. So then the other thing, there was a culture of violence in politics. So intellectuals and people who were reasonable were afraid to come into politics. And then a lot of us in the Niger Delta are first generation Nigerians. I'm the first graduate of my family. I'm the second doctor in my community. And then when the politics in Delta State, to get a form for APC, I think it was 27 million. And when you have men with ideas and brilliance and capacity and results.
But even when those that, for instance, that APC form, people like Professor Patu to me, who got the form, but they did ojoro to him that he didn't know where the primary took place.
But let me also tell you the Delta State challenge. You just mentioned Patu Tomi. Does Patu Tomi have I respect him a great deal. Does he have a factory in Asaba? How many people is he employing in Delta State? I told you that a lot of the models we're supposed to admire are in Lagos. Ogboru will come from Lagos or Abuja, come and contest elections. How many of them are on ground? How come Patutomi did not know the venue? Popularity is different from influence. A lot of the elite I employ 72 people here. I brought I brought businesses to my community. You can't mention my name in Delta State without somebody knowing me and knowing what I've contributed to them. I've influenced lives, but popularity is different from influence. You have to demonstrate what you want to come and do in your personal life first. And that's one of the problems in Delta State. A lot of those who have ruled us have not managed anything like Peter Obi or whoever before. They've not excelled in any area of business or endeavor.
Now, let me counter your argument then. If you want to take it that way, before Peter Obi became governor, he didn't have any factory in Anambra State. He only managed a company that banks that were in Lagos. So if you listen to him, he said what made him change his mind to want to contest a governor was when the Bakassi boys was operating, and he was coming from an occasion and he saw when someone was killed. Now, if I use that comparison, put side by side with Pat Utume. Pat has and runs an organization in Lagos State, so they are the same. But
I agree.
They have something to offer.
I agree with you that Peter Obi ran a bank or ran one thing. Pat Utomi is running the Lagos Business School
yes,
and Pan-African University. The question still remains. If you go to Peter Obi in the Catholic Church in Onitsha or wherever, you will see Peter Obi's footprint in the Catholic Church around Anambra. True. And politics in Anambra State is controlled by the Catholic Church. And so Peter Obi had relevance and influence with the Catholic Church. Am I right?
Yeah, well, it has some religious, very, very.
When Ohakim stripped a reverend father to his boxers.
It didn't actually happen. That was a political gimmick, though. But
was it? It was a political gimmick.
Yes.
But when he went to Assumpta Cathedral, his voice could not be heard.
Yes.
So Assumpta Cathedral at that point determined who was to become governor. So Peter Obi had footprints in the Catholic Church. One word, I saw what he was dedicating recently. So you now see that those synod appearances, all those appearances, you don't come to a state as I'm sorry, I admire Pat Utomi. You just brought his name in, but it's just like the average other.
It's a
Delta
general
State
conversation, though. It's not
about. You don't just come as a superstar and you want to come to Delta State and you want to rule us without having any influence on ground. They will mess you up.
Well, now my final question to you, Prof, will be: I believe many people watching online will want to know your take on, obviously, the state of the nation called Nigeria.
Okay.
And so there are two divergent views. There are those that think for the nation to make progress, it must be divided. The North be on their own, the South could form a new federation, or maybe what some argue, the South and the Southeast should go back to the old Eastern region, the way it was been before, that is the Biafran state. And maybe you have the Midwest or the Western region. Now, what would be your candid view on this, on a national discourse? Because these are some things we, basically discuss here to see how do we actually make progress. Okay. Again, or is it that our issue is actually not the system that we run, but the individuals that run the system?
Okay. If you take a wedding cake and slice it, the ingredient that was used to bake the cake will reach every person. If we slice Nigeria and make every local government area a country, the same oligarchy will be present in each of them. The same incompetence will be present in each of them. The same greed, impunity, and wickedness will be present in Biafra, present in all these places. So the point is, I have said that the Nigeria should be bringing out their best, a system I have designed. Let's have, number one, let's make politics unattractive financially, so that only the best and those who are willing to serve will come to serve. The Nigerian political system is too lucrative and too exciting that every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to come in. Number one, my balloon theory. Let's have the 6 geopolitical zones produce 1 president each to the presidential council. Each region will then bring their best to the table. You will do a ballot. The ballot will be supervised by the former presidents, former deputy vice presidents, and Attorney General of the Federation and INEC to determine who will be the presidential spokesman first and the sequence. Number 2, let's not have national parties. Let's have these geopolitical parties in the 6 zones. Number 1, it reduces cost of politics. Number 2, it prevents a gang from holding the whole country to ransom. Contest in the Northwest, contest in the Northeast, contest in the North Central. Do your politicking there. Don't come to any other area. Then you produce your best. We will not have national parties. We will only have regional parties, like the Scottish national parties, UKIP, and some other parties. So when you have these parties in the different regions, distribute the portfolios. So because one of the things about zoning governance and all that is just to get contracts and create lazy rich people. But let the portfolios be such that defense, internal affairs, external affairs, petroleum, finance, and one of them goes to each of these members of the presidential councils. Now, you will now see that the regions will now have a sense of belonging, a sense of fulfillment without the present tension. And then they will have a clause of the ability to recall a non-performing presidential spokesman or representative. If it is so, if a president is not performing, his people will have recalled him to his side. So we don't have crisis with that side that recall their persons. Scrap the Senate. A Senate is not a retirement office for people to come and sit as if they are in beer parlors. Scrap this, most of them sleep. Scrap the Senate. Have the House of Representatives. Let the highest paid politician earn the salary of a professor and the allowances of a professor. Let them come on specific dates. When they earn the salaries of the professor and come on specific dates, they will feel the pain.
Yeah, but
of the people.
If they want to earn the salary of the professor, they will increase the salary of the professor. I mean, if
they increase the salary of the professor and make the universities conducive, then education will be good.
No, but that is only the professor. The professor just, in your theory, he climbs the ladder and becomes one of the oligarchs.
No, but that is the peak of in the educational sector. It will percolate down. The monies you will save from the Senate. Do you know, apart from Singapore, Nigerian senators earn the highest. Do you know Donald Trump pays rent in the White House? But I'm also hearing that we pay rent for Aso Rock. I don't know who owns it. I don't know if we even lease this country from somebody. So, my brother, I don't know. There are some things I hear. I just wonder whether I'm alive. That we pay rent in Aso Rock. Who owns it?
The one who built with oil money.
Don't be sure you built it, or it might be Julius Berger or one person that built it. I don't know whether there is loan that we're still paying back, because if care is not taken, some of us will be used to pay loans. So by the time you reduce the pay, I'm just using the professor as an example, yes, you will find out that there will be more money available for development. And when more money is available for development, you will see that this nation will move forward. It will breed competition for development in the different areas.
So in summary, you are not you are against dividing the nation. Rather,
let me tell you why I'm against dividing the nation. Our population is an asset. Even if China does not export goods, domestic consumption alone would look at the BRICS countries. Brazil is a large population country. Russia is a large population country. India is a large population country. China is a large population country. South Africa, relatively large population countries. The economies that are doing well are large population countries because of domestic consumption. And then, if we fragment this country, Cameroon can overrun Biafra. If Boko Haram can threaten the whole north and threaten a large part of Nigeria, that means Niger, if Chad cannot enter Nigerian territory to drive Boko Haram, that means these countries can overrun a segment of Nigeria. So the large population is good for us. I'll give you an example. The stress that we already integrated, the stress that will evolve will be like debating the soft boundary between Ireland and England. Now, that means you will need visa to go to Kano State. That means we'll be importing, we are not yet importing onions with foreign currency. It is expensive. So when we start importing onions, it will become more expensive.
But that could be dealt with. It could be
dealt with because onions grows here. So
I know, I mean, it could be, when we think more about towards confederation, don't you think?
Yes. If the federal republics, as we have it now, can function constitutionally, then we don't really have problems. I like the large population of Nigeria. I like the diversity. It's good for business. It's good for entertainment. It's good for sports. It's good for everything. But I don't want Nigeria to divide.
Well, it's an opinion, but let me quickly, before I conclude here, take you on, the concept that you basically mentioned before, where you said that the former heads of states, the former attorney general, so basically that will be disenfranchising the people. The people no longer have the right to select who governs them, because we would have.
No, the people will have been like South now. Let's assume that Donald Duke won as our presidential representative. It is we that voted Donald Duke. Let's assume that Zulum won in his own zone. They voted Zulum. Let's assume that El Rufai wins in his own zone. They voted El Rufai. Let's assume that Kwankwaso won somewhere. They voted Kwankwaso. Let's assume that Ambode won in the Southwest. They voted Ambode. And then in the Southeast, Peter Obi wins. They voted Peter Obi. Is their representative to the presidential council?
Of course, yeah, but there is another caveat you put in there, in the manner of selection.
The selection, I don't want the Trump effect to take place of refusing to leave office. Now, if there is this committee of respectable elders and past rulers that will say, you are the person that will take the first shot for 2 years, the next person for the next year, the next person for the next year, it is gazetted, the House of Representatives pass it as a law, it is abiding. Because we respect elders in this country. We respect people in this country. So if these people have decided and determined that this is how it is going to be, and it is established, every person knows his turn. I'm particular about the Southeast. You will see that, assuming it is a Southeasterner that by ballot or whatever won the right to contest, to be the presidential spokesman. Let's assume it's Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. For 2 years, the Easterners will have produced a president. then you bring a South man, they will have produced a president.
Yeah, but
This idea of holding power on behalf of the people without producing any results for the people. The North has ruled for so many years. There's nothing to show.
That's correct. But don't you envisage problem with your model in the Niger Delta when someone from Ishekiri is there and people think, well, there is nothing for the Ishekiri people, and the Robos and others will be clamoring for recall?
You see, if that fear of recall is there, then the person will develop the state uniformly. The impunity in this country is because you don't fear any person recalling you or removing you from office. After all, Uduagan was governor of Delta State. After all, the president of Ethiopia was from a minority tribe recently. So Delaware is a small state. So Barack had to leave Hawaii to come to Chicago to be able to win presidency. So if the person knows that there is the possibility of recall, then he won't stay there and start messing up. Anyway, if Buhari knows that he can be recalled, he will respect his fellow Northerners and those who voted him. If Zulum knows that he can be recalled, he will perform to suit the needs of his people. If he is in charge of mines and power and there's no electricity in his place, the people will question him.
And your parting shot, how would you rate the government? What have, the federal government now, we spoke about the state, when you look at the federal government today, what will be your, are they doing the right things? Are they getting it right? Or are they, basically failing Nigerians?
I told my wife when Buhari was saying change. I said Buhari will look like a choir master and a solo singer singing change, and then his followers will be saying shame. All the promises, campaign promises they made, a great percentage have not been fulfilled. Secondly, the insecurity in the North in particular is very alarming. The cost of commodities and services have increased without improvement. The facilities are bad, roads are bad. I think that this nation is in a dismal state. And I believe that Buhari should see it as an opportunity to write his name in gold and perform.
Well, that's a very good, fine place to leave it. Thank you very much, so much. Doctor, for joining me this evening. It has been a wonderful conversation. And the viewers online, they have all, one said here, Nigerian National Assembly is really a beer parlor, following up on what you said. But many of them, and rather majority of them, are requesting that you come back on another date, that they've really enjoyed the manner and the truths that you have spoken to them this evening. And I can't thank you enough as well. And I will join them to say thank you for joining us this evening. And it has been a wonderful, I think we are close to 2 hours now, but nonetheless, yes, you see how time flies when a great mind meets together to rub mind. Anyway, I don't even know that we've blown, that time has passed that fast.
We will continue the discussion on social media, Facebook, Apoki Charles, Instagram, Apoki Charles, Dr. Apoki Charles on Facebook, and then on WhatsApp and all that. Ask questions. Let's be discussing.